Welcome to season 2 of Step Into Success. We are taking you in the trenches with real entrepreneurs that are currently building their business. We speak with people from all different industries, from all corners of the globe. So you can check it out on YouTube or you can listen on Spotify. Welcome to another episode of Step Into Success. Today, I am lucky enough to have Brett Benson on with us. Brett, you have an amazing background. You started off in finance. Now you own a franchise. We got a lot to get into. I just want to let you introduce yourself first. How would you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Darian. I appreciate that introduction. My name is Brett Benson. I'm the owner of Blingle Premier Lighting. We are based in Southeast Wisconsin. We focus on three main areas of outdoor lighting: landscape lighting, permanent lighting, and holiday lighting.
Brett, what got you into Blingle lighting?
I had a career change at about age 45, and I just figured by then my skill set was really not marketable in the corporate world. And so I knew that going forward, I would have to find some sort of a business. Also having kids, at a reasonably young age, still at home, um, I needed the flexibility of having my own thing, calling my own shots. I looked at a bunch of different businesses. Um, it kind of made sense to go the franchising route, to get a business in a box, basically, and put all the pieces together. And why I decided on lighting, I looked at about a dozen different businesses, and the thing about outdoor lighting is it's not like a gym membership where someone comes in and you sell them a $60 a month gym membership. Maybe you get them a little bit of personal training, and it's just the same thing over and over and over again. Lighting, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, there's just so much opportunity out there. I mean, it could be, a five fixture job, it could be a 500 fixture job. You just never know what you're going to come across. And I kind of liked the unpredictability of it, and just the fact that it would not be a gym membership that I'm selling. It would not be a hamburger I'm selling. It'd be something different every time. And that it was also a want. Primarily, outdoor lighting is a want, um, versus selling a need. It's not selling someone new windows or a roof or something like that. It's largely selling a want, which kind of changes the whole dynamic of everything. And the other thing with that is, at the end of the day, you know, we could have our problems here and there. We always fix them, but at the end of the day, there's never an unhappy customer. I mean, when we go out there, turn on the lights, I mean, people are just absolutely wowed. Um, so it's worked out to be a really cool business, something that I really enjoy. And it's just an amazing way to see that reaction in the customer's face when when you're all said and done and you turn on the lights for the first time.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that because you can always tell when a business owner is really into what they do by they talk about the customer's reaction. So I want to go back a little bit. I got a question for you. You mentioned that you had a career change.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, let's go back in time a little bit. What was your previous career before getting into Blingle lighting?
So um, I was well, I'm still a member of the Chicago Board of Trade, and I was an options trader. Um, when Options on contracts for future delivery. So my primary focus, throughout the bulk of my career, was trading interest rates on the 10-year Treasury note and trading interest rates on the 5-year Treasury note and spreading between the two was pretty much what I did most of my career. I did trade in the S&P 100. I did trade in the S&P options contracts at one point in time. Started off when I was well, I met a kid my freshman year of college, and we became pretty good friends. And I was 18. He invited me to go down to Florida with him on spring break, and we borrowed a friend of his car. And so we take the car down, go to Florida, have a great time, come back and drop the car off to the friend. Well, the friend happened to be quite a bit older than my friend and was kind of a mentor to him in the golf world. And I'll never forget, we went to his house. They fed me dinner. And after dinner, I got up and grabbed my plate. I went to the sink and I washed it off. And this particular person, his name was David Watterson, I guess was pretty impressed that an 18-year-old kid got up and washed his plate off and started talking to me. And he told me that he worked at the Chicago Board of Trade. And at the time, I had no idea what that was and sounded pretty cool. And he said, would you be interested in coming up and being a summer intern in the grain pits, so the soybeans, corn, and wheat, oats? And I said, well, that sounds interesting. Let me ask my parents. So I got the okay from mom and dad, and I went down there and had an interview. And about a week later, I'm up there, and it's 9:25 in the morning. I've got a training jacket on, and I'm standing in a room with 5,000 people, and all of a sudden this bell goes off, and the room erupts, and all the hair on my body stood up, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I always loved that story because I just turned 19 years old, and just to have everything become that clear in a moment, it's time. And I spent the next 3 summers clerking there. And then I kind of just gave up. I finished college, but I really kind of lost interest in college. And I just started studying financial markets, started studying options contracts. And then after college, after I graduated college, I went to work for Merrill Lynch for 6 months. My job was to contact 110 people a day, ask them, basically qualify them to see how much money they had. And I decided, that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And I applied to grad school and got a job back at the Chicago Board of Trade. This time it was in the bond room, the bond pits, and was working full time there and going to school at night. Ended up graduating with a master's in financial engineering, and spent a number of years working for other companies. And then in 2004, just decided to start my own company. And I was self-employed, had an amazing career there in the pits up until 2017. And basically what happened was there, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange opened up what's called the Aurora Data Center. And basically what happened is the Aurora Data Center basically eliminated my career, along with me and about 9,000 other people. You just can't compete against a millisecond. So it was hard to walk away. It was the love of my life. And but technology, like a lot of people are seeing nowadays, and what we're going to see, like with AI, technology just eliminated it. And you know, um, kind of went through a few other short-term careers that just really didn't interest me. And so stumbled on outdoor lighting, and this is my fourth year in business. And things are really starting to go great. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's something that I really enjoy, something I'm really proud to be building. And it's it's going.
Brett, you've said a lot of interesting things. I got some questions about some stuff. So, when it came to you met your friend, or you met your friend's friend, and you went to the trading floor the first time, and you said you knew instantly what you wanted to do. You were like 19 years old. I think in today's world, a lot of 19-year-olds have no idea what they want to do. I mean, I'm in my 30s, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do, right? So, what was it about that experience that let you know, okay, this is what I want to do? Can you share a little bit more about that?
So, like, like I mentioned, when the bell rang, all the hair on my body stood up, right? And there was that adrenaline rush. And yeah, I mean, the room erupts, people are screaming. I mean, it's just capitalism in its purest form. And I just had to be part of that. You know what I mean? That was just me. I mean, I've always been of the capitalist mindset. Um, my undergraduates in economics, grew up in a small town, had a million summer jobs, worked very hard, and, always had that desire to be successful. And, you know, where else could you do that, you know, than in the trading pits in Chicago? So, I mean, I was just hooked. I mean, there was just nothing else mattered after that. I mean, the only goal was to be a trader. Um, there was just, that was it. And how cool is that, that at such a young age, that I was fortunate enough to figure that out because, having kids, I've got kids. My oldest is in his very early 20s, and he's still trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
And he said to me, man, Dad, I wish I'd had that moment like you had, and I wish he would too, But I don't know. That was just one of those areas that I was really fortunate.
Yeah, so Brett, also too, the other thing, I mean, I would say of all the guests that we've had on Step Into Success, have the most experience when it comes to the financial background. I think finance is a language that is super important, but a lot of people don't know how to speak very well. Would you agree? What drew you to finance outside of just money, and how would maybe anyone younger that's in the audience listening get themselves into understanding more about finance? How would you start that journey of being smart with your money?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's the financial illiteracy in this country is really, is really terrible. These kids just aren't taught. They're not taught about money, right? I mean, and we live in a society where, we're keeping up with the Joneses, and my motto has been always to impress your banker, not your neighbor.
Okay.
And I mean, I think every kid should, get a Robinhood account, or I'm not sure what's the name of the one where you round up your change. Uh,
Acorns.
it's
Acorns.
Acorns, yeah, Acorns. I mean, I would encourage everybody to start doing that. I talk with my kids, quite a bit, and I say, if you would just set aside 20% of your income during your 20s, your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond would just be, would be pretty much easy street. Um, so yeah, I think that would be a very good way. I think the barriers to entry are very low. I mean, most of my background is in trading. Now, I do understand the investing world as well. But my background was, buying and selling something, 50, 100 times a day. That's not what I would, encourage the young generation to do. I would encourage them to, diversify their money, put it in, broad-based indexes like the S&P 500, mutual funds that are very diversified. I think real estate, farm ground, those are great investments. It's you gotta. we need to get it instill into their minds at an early age that that life, it doesn't seem like it's flying by, but the more you plan now, the easier it's going to be down the road for you.
So when it comes to trading, like I think also too, if you I don't know, if you get on Instagram or if you get on YouTube or anything like that, like you see a lot of information about there out there about trading because it's kind of like sexy, right? It's kind of like a cool thing to do. Um, what what kind of mindset do you have in order to be good at trading? And can you dive a little bit deeper into what you were trading and how you were so successful at it?
So, I mean, I don't trade anymore, right? Because
Right.
I've thought a lot about it, right? Um, if you're gonna trade online today, right? I mean, when I was on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade, I was basically a casino, right? I bought here and I sold here, and I got to set the price here and set the price here. So there was always that edge, right? Traders always referred to as getting the edge. Now, if you're doing that online, you're not getting the edge. So you have to be, maybe you have to have a little bit longer term horizon. Maybe maybe you have to put a trade on that's you're going to leave on for a week. Maybe you have to leave it on for a few days, maybe longer than a week. I really don't know, but I think online trading, the odds are highly stacked against an individual to do it. Um, I think I think there's a lot of people out there, and I know people that I used to trade with that, all of a sudden, they're doing great. Oh, wow, I'm up so much money this year, and then in one day, it's all gone. And I've seen it happen several times to a good friend of mine, and it's just very difficult. I would encourage people not to try and trade. I would encourage them more to invest. Um, as far as like what I was doing, so um, I have a we would trade. Okay, well, uh, the most common product for the government to issue debt in, we're talking U.S. government debt, is the 10-year term, the 10-year note. So there's a cash contract and there's a contract for future delivery or contracts for future delivery. So you'd have, March, June, um, September, December futures contracts. And then you would have options. You'd have January through December options. And, there's different prices. Well, we have computer models to determine the price. Now, the price is based on, time to expiration. It's based off volatility of the market. So basically what I was a volatility trader. So I would stand in a pit with a bunch of people, and right above me would be all these brokers. And they would say, what's the market in, I don't know, let's say what's the market in the September 24, 26 call 2x3. And I would sit there and figure out what it was worth. And I would make a market based on, I would give them a two-sided market. I'll pay 13 for it and I'll sell it to you at 15. And I would do that all day long. And as these different factors, they call them Greeks. Greeks are your delta, your gamma, your vega, your theta. As they change, so do your markets, and also as the underlying futures contract changes, so do the value of these things. So I was a volatility trader. So I would make these trades and then I would hedge them with futures. And then what would end up happening would be is I would end up accumulating large option portfolios. So what you try and do is you try and spread these portfolios, try and spread the risk off. So if I'm long December options, maybe I want to sell March options against it and just try and spread it off and then manage the risk between those 2 months. So that's basically what I did.
Wow. So some of that is definitely over my head and definitely over the head of I know a lot of people listening. So let me ask you what causes, so you're basically a volatility trader. What would, so take for example, and if this is an ignorant question, I apologize, but like everything going on in the world right now, if you were back on that Chicago bond trading floor with everything going on in the world right now, like the war in Iran, gas prices going up, things like that, what are some of the factors that would play into your business moves?
Well, I mean, it would be everybody would be laser focused on Iran, right? We'd be watching the price of oil, right? We'd be watching the stocks because as the price of oil goes up, the price of the stocks are going to go down. And as the price of stocks go down, interest rates are going to go down, right? Because it's going to, right now everything is kind of, I mean, we're told right now, well, the war is only going to last a month, and the price of oil is going to go back down. Well, there's no guarantees in that. So, what happens is um, whenever there is a crisis in the world or a crisis in the United States, what happens? They go to the safe things, which are bonds. And what are the safest bonds? Well, the ones that are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. So everybody runs into treasuries during that time. Everybody wants to buy bonds. Um, so yeah, I mean, certainly in a time like this, you would be I mean, the volatility would certainly be heightened. There would certainly be more opportunity, I'm sure, with everything going on. Um, the risk premium would be elevated, the price of the options or the volatility would be higher as a result of all this. So yeah, I mean, um,
Um,
look back, you look back, kind of like the main ones in my career were the NASDAQ bubble back in like the early 2000s. 2007, 8, and 9 were by far and away the craziest things I've ever experienced. Like 2008, it was like selling insurance when your house was burning down. I mean, it was like, it was definitely the most risky time. Those were also my best years as well. And then the other really crazy time was during COVID.
mm.
And that was nuts.
So is something like what's going on now, for example, because you mentioned COVID, you mentioned, 2008. Is this good for someone that's involved in like the money markets? Are times like this where there's like a little bit of catastrophe going on? Are those profitable times for people in the in the financial markets industry?
I mean, they certainly can be. Um,
If you know what you're doing, I take it.
yeah. Um, like I mentioned, right? Like for me, 2007, 8, 9 were by far and away my best years. Those weren't very good years for a lot of people. When people were suffering with, the housing crisis and so forth. What I experienced, right? I'll never forget the day that Bear Stearns went under. I
Mm.
mean, you talk about just absolute craziness and just, the prices of options just exploding. Um, and then when another time was when the Fed announced the first quantitative easing, right, where they were going to start buying treasuries. I mean, that was like nothing the world had ever seen before. I mean, nobody saw the standard deviation moves and interest rates like happen that day. It was insane.
So, Brett, let me ask you this. If you were to, I guess, be advising your younger self or your children or anyone listening or whatever when it comes to investing, you've already mentioned you wouldn't advise getting into trading. Is there a particular industry or a particular area where you would suggest investing?
Um, you know, it,
And just so you know, we're not holding you accountable
no,
to anything here.
yeah. Um, it just seems it just seems like technology is the future. um Real estate, you can't go wrong with real estate. I don't see how real estate is not going to go up in value. Um, Unfortunately, we carry this huge national debt. Um, so, I mean, I mean, it's just this the more debt, it just seems the higher the stocks go. I mean, there is a correlation there. You know what I mean? Um, I think I just I would always be diversified. I feel like if you put money in the S&P 500, I mean, you're diversifying yourself across five of the biggest 500 of the biggest companies in the world. Um, I don't think you can go wrong there.
Mm.
Um, so, at a young age, like in your 20s, your 30s, even your 40s, I mean, I would be pretty aggressive. Aggressive growth is what I would be.
So you mentioned earlier that what ultimately you left the financial industry, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm correct, you left the financial industry due to basically technology disruption. It ultimately displaced the role. I have a couple questions I want to get into, but can you kind of share a little bit more about that, like what you were doing, and then the technology and how it disrupted ultimately what you were doing, and then we're going to get into kind of your career change after that.
Okay. Well, there's a great book. Michael Lewis has written a lot of books. He's a great author. And there's a great book called Flash Boys. And that's what happened to me. So the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, um, excuse me, opened up a data center. And basically what happened is all of a sudden you go from a human element to a millisecond element. And it's not like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange advertised that they're opening up a new electronic. Basically, it's a high-speed trading floor, and that competed directly against me. Um, and the closer you were to that server, the faster you could be. And so this thing opened in 2012, and in 20 up until 2012, I had this amazing career, right? And then all of a sudden, one day, all the money was gone, right? All the edge that we were getting went to this. And then eventually it kind of went to this.
Mm.
And that was all that millisecond trading. And I hung in there for about 5 years, thinking that I could outwork it, I could outsmart it. But, working harder and then, your income going down by 95%, basically. Um, just had to walk away. It went from being the greatest job in the world to being the worst job in the world. And you just can't beat it. That's why um, that's just why I'm not a trader anymore.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. So when it came time for you to walk away, and you got the technology disruption, you even mentioned this earlier. That's very common with what's going on in the world today, right? There's a lot of people out there that are getting disrupted by AI and things like that. And Brett, to be honest with you, there's even a lot of people blame AI, but I was meeting with a business owner a couple days ago who told me that he just invested in a $250,000 machine because the machine, it's nothing to do with AI, but the machine could basically, it was robotic. It could replace what these four operators that they were all paying $100,000 a year to could do. So he invested in this machine, laid off the four operators, right? So now he's paying $250,000 one time instead of paying 450 or $400,000 per year, year over year for however long. Considering where you've been, and you've been someone that was replaced by technology at one point in time, what is your advice to people? Like, A, what do you need to do to keep your skill set up so you don't get replaced? And then B, when do you know it's time to jump? Like, you obviously made a right decision to jump and do something different. Some people, I would assume, try to stay on. right? Like, what? How do you navigate that?
Well, when we shut down when I shut down my business, I had a partner. When we shut it down, I spent a year. I was at the height of my game, right? Um, but no one would touch me with my floor trading background, um, unless I was a programmer. And, I tried learning programming, it was not my cup of tea. I got about as far as hello world. Um, and honestly, Darian, it was a struggle. I mean, it was, really the only things that were available to me were you could go be a stockbroker, and I didn't want to do that.
Mm.
You could go sell insurance, really didn't want to go do that. I ended up working in medical sales for about 5 years. Um, and, that's another story, but really didn't like that. Um, with all the laws that change, with, Medicare cuts coverage on this, Medicare changes reimbursement on this. So it was like once you would get something going, the rug would get pulled out from underneath you. And really it was almost more volatile than trading. So, what advice do I have to people? Um, it's not easy. Y- you know, um, I mean, I have four children. They're 21, they're 18, 16, and 14. And I really worry about them. And quite honestly, I mean, I'm pushing them towards the trades. Um, because I don't know how soon the robots are going to be able to replace that, but I feel like it's probably the best shot they have. And, I mean, we could lose 10 to 15 million jobs in this country over the next 10 years from what I've read. So it is a real concern. I wish I had the crystal ball to tell people, um, anybody losing their career, particularly the older you get, it's devastating. And, um, how do you reinvent the wheel at that age? It's pretty hard. So I don't exactly know.
Well, what I'm interested in, Brett, let me ask you this. So when everything happened with you and your business partner, you went into medical sales for a little bit. Ultimately, you ended up pivoting to Blingle, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into Blingle. Um, what what was like the catalyst that drove you into Blingle? Had you met someone? Did you know that you wanted to be involved in home services? How did that come to be?
Um, so, my kids were finally getting to the age where, I didn't have to be home at 3:30 in the afternoon when they were there. Right. I mean, they were old enough that, they could come home, make a snack, and if I got home at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, um, the house wasn't going to burn down. So, where I was working at in the space I was working at in the medical sales field, I was not real happy. And, you know, I would say pre-COVID, um, my skill set did not transfer to any sort of corporate job, right? I'm, mid to late 40s. No company wants to touch me. Um, and I could make the argument, well, you know what, if you can survive on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade for 25 years, right? Not many people can do that. That could do anything. But the world didn't see it that way. And I think there was this opportunity when COVID first started, that um, that you could go out and reinvent yourself with someone. People needed workers so badly, during the first couple of years of COVID. Um, but despite putting in hundreds of applications and I don't know how many interviews I had, but I must have put in 300 job applications after leaving training. And I really nobody wanted to touch me unless it was stockbroker or insurance sales. And so I connected with a guy on LinkedIn, a franchise consultant. he put a bunch of different businesses in front of me. Um, one of them was a property restoration company. Trying to remember what the other ones were. One of them was a irrigation company. But ultimately I decided on the lighting. And one of the things that attracted me to Blingle was, I think outdoor lighting is very unsophisticated, right? I mean,
Mm.
most of the companies out there doing it are small mom pop landscape companies. Um, right. So here's this company, Blingle, sexy name, right? And wow, Blingle, hey, I can market this. You know what I mean? I bet you nobody out there is really, very few, if any, companies are marketing an outdoor lighting company. So that was the opportunity I saw, right? Was the opportunity to market it.
So when you saw the opportunity to market and you were like, okay, well, the lighting space, there's an opportunity here.
Right. That's yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of saw it was it's very unsophisticated, you know. Most of the time it's probably let's do your landscaping and then lighting's probably the last thing they think of. You know what I mean? So, I think outdoor lighting is one of those things that you don't really um most people don't even realize they want until they see it. So, yeah, um it's I I'm there are other competitors out there that I compete with, but as far as the things that I do, the networking, the marketing, just the things that I do to get this company out there, are probably not like what most business owners do. Um, I think, very I don't know of any companies in my area that just exclusively do lighting.
So got a couple questions for you. Um, so when it comes to the lighting, first of all, just curious as to your Blingle pitch. What are the reasons that homeowners should want permanent or landscape lighting?
Sure. Well, I mean, the main reason is beauty, right? I mean, people, it's a time of year right now where we're all like getting ready to, start thinking about working out in our yard, right? And, we've got all these, grand visions to make our yard beautiful. And, and to not light that after you're done, you're missing out on, really the best part of it,
Mm.
which is seeing it at night. And so, that's certainly, that's certainly what landscape lighting is all about. Okay, so it's with the landscape lighting. Okay, I mean requires thought, right? It's all design, it's all fixture selection, and it's all knowing where to place the fixtures in the right place. It's all knowing the right beam spreads, the right color temperatures. There's a lot that goes into it, um, but and it's really just it's one of those things you didn't know you wanted it until you saw it. And I come across that a lot, and that's pretty cool. Like people just don't think about it, right? They didn't know they wanted it until they get it, and then they're like, "How did we not? How did we not? How did we not live without this? Or we couldn't have lived without this." But and then so it's beauty, right? And then it is safety. You know, walking outside at night, taking the garbage out. It's nice to have light, um, where you can see where you're going. And then and it's also security. Um, there's well documented statistics that show people with a well lit home are way less likely to be broken into. Um, and then lastly, it adds value to your home. It's an investment in your home, um, and it certainly allows you to enjoy your, whether it be your backyard or wherever is your outdoor area. is, during the warmer months. As far as permanent lighting, permanent lighting is really just now starting to take off in the greater Milwaukee area. It's been a big thing in a lot of other cities for a lot of other years, but it's really starting um, to hit Milwaukee. Well, um, so the permanent lighting, you've got your 16 million different colors. You've got all your holidays you never heard of, all your sports teams in this one really cool user-friendly app, right? But I only do one permanent lighting. I'm an authorized dealer for Gemstone permanent lights, and several reasons that I do Gemstone only is their app is so user-friendly. It gets 4.9 out of 5 stars. They have over 1,200 pre-built patterns in there. But the main reason that I do Gemstone is it has a true warm white. So, in other words, customers want warm white, right? That's what they want. It has these beautiful architectural patterns already pre-built. You can customize it. You can highlight certain features of your architecture. It's fabulous stuff. So that's really kind of the big trend we're seeing right now. Is a big push to permanent lighting in the Milwaukee market.
Nice. So, what? So you said everyone wants warm white, and Jim offers that. What is so special about warm white? I don't know much about the outdoor lighting space.
Well, okay. I mean, think of Christmas lights. We do lots of Christmas lights, and I would say 80% of my customers want that traditional yellowish, warm 2700 Kelvin bulb, right? Um, it's the most common color. Um, so, we deal a lot in Kelvin temperature. 2700 is what's considered warm white. Whether it's holiday lighting, whether it's landscape lighting, whether it's permanent lighting, it is predominantly the most popular light temperature that you're going to find on any home. So um, it's just very important. And to have a permanent lighting that has a dedicated warm white really sets Gemstone apart from everything else. And, we put it on a lot of high end homes. And it's not because of the 16 million different colors, right? It's because of that warm white. So people, homeowners put these can lights, right, in their soffits. And so with Gemstone, you don't need to put can lights in anymore. You can just make your own can lights. So it's really popular, very smart technology. It's cloud based. It can be controlled anywhere. You can program it a year in advance. You can have it come on at sunset, come turn off at sunrise. I mean, it's just very, very smart 21st century technology.
Yeah, that's good to know. So let me ask you this: sales. Let's go into sales for just a moment. Sales, in my opinion, are getting harder than they've ever been because customers, our clients, our prospects, whatever you want to classify it as, have as much, if not more, information than the actual seller, right? Like they can go and they can scour the internet for everything. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that you are selling a want versus a need. Am I right on that?
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, 90% of the time. I mean, you
How do
know,
you navigate that? How do you navigate selling us a want versus a need?
I think at the end of the day, the customer's they're buying you at the end of the day. Um, you have to build a trust with them. Um, I think most customers, not all of our clients are high end, but most of the time they are. And, they're willing to pay a little bit more for number one, a quality fixture, right? I mean, something that's not going to break, something that's going to last, something they don't have to maintain. Um, and, they just want it done right.
Mm,
And, if you can prove to them that, you know, you're going to go out there and do this job right the first time, um, and you can build that level of competence with them that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I, we're the right choice, and here's why, right? Because number one, we're going to use great fixtures that last. Anything we put in your yard is going to have at least a 10-year warranty, if not a lifetime warranty,
mm,
right? Stuff doesn't break. I'm not interested in running a company where I have to go out and fix stuff.
mm.
I'm interested in running a company where I just go out and install it once. We shake hands, and I'll see you in 20 years.
For sure. No, that makes sense. Let me ask you this. So for people listening that are, considering being an entrepreneur or leaving their job or whatever the case may be, what are some of the benefits of getting into a franchise? So, you obviously you joined a franchise. There has to be something that drew you to that. What is that?
Well, I mean, I didn't really think with everything I had going on in life, in my late 40s, that I could start something from scratch. I mean, I could, but um, it just made sense for me to buy that business in a box, right? Now, but they don't tell you, the amount of work that it's going to take to get there, because it's a massive amount of work. You think you work hard in your current job, well, take that times two, because, starting your own business, that's what it's going to be. It doesn't happen as fast as you think it can happen. It just takes time, right? And like, okay, particularly in the home service industry space, which is what I'm in, like, it just doesn't happen overnight, right? You've got to keep things very lean and mean. Um, you've got to go out there and you got to do the free stuff. I mean, if you think you're just going to, you can dump all this money into advertising and all of a sudden this thing's going to take off, it's probably not.
Mm.
Probably what you're going to have to do is you're probably going to have to go out and network. You're going to have to do a lot of home shows. I always say, my motto is go do the free stuff first, right? Go out there and meet people, be a champion for other people's businesses, try and help them. And what they say, givers gain, right? Um, but yeah, you know, I'm sure for some people it does happen, much easier than it did for me. But my path was not easy. I mean, I'm starting my fourth year. I mean, I feel like things are just really going good. But there's a lot of sleepless nights with this stuff.
Yeah, you touched on something interesting. You mentioned about dumping advertising into, just dumping advertising money and hoping things will take off. I think in today's world, you see a lot of businesses that they get caught up in seeing people on like Facebook and Instagram and Google just running ads and quote unquote getting clients. But I think that from my experience in the business world and even all the other people that I've interviewed on this show, they all kind of say what you just said, which is there's a lot of hard work that goes into actually getting out there, shaking hands, knocking on doors that advertising really can't bring you. Um, you agree with that? That like you need to get out there and do some actual uh face-to-face interaction rather than just trying to hide in a way behind advertising.
Yeah, I mean, I learned this the hard way too. You know what I mean? I've wasted a lot of money for no return on a lot of things, right? A lot of it to begin with was digital advertising. Um, and you and I have talked about this before. Like, it's a tough space. It's just not, it's not that easy to get that person to click on your ad and then actually follow through with setting up an appointment with you. Um, and then, they may set up appointment with you, but really how interested are they really? Are they willing to spend the money? So it's just, it's really a crapshoot. I mean, yeah, there's branding out there, and you can make the argument that, yeah, well, you're branding, and people are, when people are ready for you, they're, then they'll reach out to you, whether it be 5, 10 years from now, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. But when you're starting out a business, you really can't, you really can't waste that money on stuff like that. So, um, yeah, go do the free stuff. Go meet people. Go talk to people. Join the chamber. Work with a charity. Volunteer your time. You know what I mean? I'm a lighting company. You know what I did? I set up big lighting displays for free in exchange for being sponsors of events and things like that. Um, you know, that's there's a million ways you can be creative with whatever business you're doing. Um, and you can always donate your time.
I love that. I think that's a great way to look at things. A lot of people, I feel like, at least from what I've seen, don't donate their time, and they're not willing to do some of that stuff. Is there any other, when it comes to uh, I haven't had many guests talk about that. Is there any other advice that you have when it comes to donating time, other ways outside of spending advertising money that you can, get indoors? Do you have any other advice when it comes to that?
Um, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I guess I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what I said before. You know, I think working with charities has been a great thing for me. Um, it's some of these charities can be your greatest champions. Right now, one of my favorites I work with is Habitat for Humanity. Um, it's just amazing. If you can get other people talking about you, um, that's the best sales force I think you'll ever have. Um, I work with another group called Christmas Fantasy House. We decorate this McMansion every year, and yeah, I mean, it's just 10,000 people come. They see our sign in the yard. Um, we get an interview on CBS every year for it. It's an investment, but it doesn't cost a lot of money to go set up lights, and it's just a little bit of blue collar work and a lot of your time. And what's great though is with all this, like, I always say, like, some of the best friends I've made are like through these organizations, like the Builders Association, the Metropolitan Builders Association. Just met some of the best friends there. I just had and had a lot of fun along the way. So don't look at it as wow, I got to go do this. Look at it as, wow, I'm going to go to a great event. I'm going to meet some great people. I'm going to have great conversations, and I'm going to make some new friends. And don't look at it as a job. And before you know it, things will really start to happen.
Brett, I want to ask you something else too. I don't want to get too personal here, but I think this is a very important thing. Because even me at age, and I'm 35 right now. I just turned 35 a few weeks ago, and I'm personally almost fearful of, what if I had to change career paths, or what if I had to do something different right now? You've mentioned multiple times throughout this episode that you were in your 40s and you made a career change. My question to you, that I think is really important for people listening, I'm not asking this for you to tell me. This is, I think, important for everyone out there. If you're in your 40s and you want to make a career change, you know, what's stopping you? What are some of the things that you can do to make that actually happen? Because I think that's really important, because I think there's a lot of people. I know I'm from small town Boonville, Mississippi. And I know for a fact there's a lot of people in their 40s, in their 50s that wish they were doing something different. What advice would you have for those people?
Well, I mean, I would say, tread very carefully, right? I mean, it's not an easy endeavor. Um, I would, you know, 7, 8 years ago, had I gone into being a stockbroker, right, and stayed in the field that I was in, would that have been a better move for me? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'll never know. But, um, to go from being a floor trader to doing outdoor lighting, that was an entire 180, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, it was a 180, I guess I should say. But, you know, I would say my advice would be stick with something close to what your current skill set is. So there's not that huge transition, right? Um, Now, did a lot of my skills from trading transfer over? Yeah, I mean, they certainly did. But yeah, I mean, you really don't want to do what I did. You know what I'm saying? Um, I mean, I think it's great. I think I get the desire to want to work for yourself or do something, go do something that you enjoy more than maybe what your current grind is. But try and use your current skill set and leverage that would be the best advice I could give you.
Love it, Brett. There's a couple things that as we kind of come to an end here, I want to wrap up on. So for one, um, we always have the previous guest to leave a question for the next guest.
Oh,
They have no idea who it is. So the last guest, they have no idea who it is, right? So the question that was left for you is this right here. What type of obstacle did you have to deal with that looking back turned out to be a blessing?
wow.
That's a
What
good question, isn't it?
a good question, right? I mean, there was a lot of obstacles. Which ones have turned into be a blessings? I would say um, several things here. As a business owner, I guess I've realized that nobody's, if you're gonna build this business around a workforce that you think is going to care about the business as much as you do, it's just not going to happen, right? So I guess I've learned. I work with some incredible subcontractors, right? Very, very talented people that go out and do the job right. So, um, at first, when I started this business, I started with either hourly or salaried employees, and it just didn't work out, right? It just they can't meet they couldn't meet my expectations, right? They didn't care about as much as I did. So I've kind of streamlined that process. I work with two different groups of subcontractors. Um, they're exceptional people, very talented, and they just don't know how to do good work. And so I'm really blessed with that. And it also makes my head spin into what are the other possibilities are out there. So I would say that's been the obstacle that I encountered was people, right, and finding the right people. And now I've developed some relationships that have just turned out to just be just a home run for me.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's a great answer because I think it's super important to find the right people to work with. Now, Brett, in turn, you have to, what question would you ask our next guest? You have no idea who that's going to be. I can't tell you who it's going to be, even though I know who it is. Um, What question, if you could ask anything in the world, what would you ask the next guest? And then I'll make sure that just like I'm going to share your answer to the person previous, I'll share their answer with you.
Okay. Um, I guess I would ask them, do they have any regrets with starting their own business?
All right. Last question I'll ask you, and then we'll be done. If you could go back 10 years and talk to yourself, what would be the one piece of advice you would give yourself 10 years ago?
10 years ago.
Or you can make it whatever time frame you want. You can make it 5 years ago, 20 years ago, a period of time when you could have used some advice.
So I would go back about 4 years ago, and I would say to myself, just start small, right? Believe in yourself, right? Go out there and do the free stuff, right? I mean, every day, every business owner gets approached by people that have that have all the answers, right? And they mean well, but they don't have all the answers. Believe in yourself. Um, Go out there, do the free stuff. Um, you know, save your money. You have to do some advertising. As a business, every business has to do some advertising. I would, at least service business has to at some point. Um, but just go out there, start small, believe in yourself, and keep your costs low. And don't look back. You're gonna have bad days. It's okay to have a bad day. Just don't let that bad day turn into a bad week. Don't let it turn into a bad month. Just keep going, keep moving forward, and eventually you will get there.
Brett, thank you very much.